As long as you don't ask me.
We might end up. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
We always crash in like that.
I was just about to say,
yes.
but it works against us. We try to do a podcast without mentioning Trump, but it usually comes up.
Well, you just mentioned him there.
That's what
He's manifested.
Outer limits of sort of put us
exactly.
into
You can't escape him.
Simon.
Hello.
Thank
you so
like
much for having me.
That's okay. Is it representative of anything? The college years, playing American football or something?
Yeah, it's sort of like a cricket jumper and a
I like
a
the
baseball
difference thing. I like that sort of thing, like seeing one colour in one colour.
I mean, this is great for a podcast.
It's
sort of like we are streaming.
You have to watch, so you get the extras like this. The little hook comes. Is it representative of anything?
I'd just been to America and I thought I like a bit of the preppy look. So
what was you doing in America?
I was on a very rare holiday. I had a break between contracts because I'm freelance.
Yeah.
And I thought I would seize the moment and go on holiday for a week.
Go?
So I went to Miami and the Bahamas. Am I brown?
Yeah, you are dark. Funny enough.
Yeah.
Is Miami hot there at the moment?
Yeah, it's 30 degrees.
Because everyone talks about the heat just hitting you.
I felt like we should have had more white people for the whole. Am I brown? Because we've got a half Greek, a Turk, a mixed race lady, and I'm quarter Chinese.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's unfair on us.
Just need Kofi Annan.
We should have got. We should have had Charles here. Just for the English. Then you could be like, I'm so gloriously brown next to Charles. Poor Charles.
How long was you in Miami for?
Just a week.
Is it still got the big Cuban influence there? Or is it just Latin now?
I went to South Beach to look at all the nice Art Deco and all that stuff. But
I'm not going to say the nice asses.
You could do both.
It went into my head and then left, and I brought it back. Anyway,
we're not all animals like you, Theo.
I'm out of the world. I'm the most civilized.
Actually, you didn't know what that video was that we were talking about, which we're not going to now.
So something to do with sex. Oh, balls.
What?
Something to do with balls in a cup.
Right, let's move on.
Right, go on. So you was in my from asses to
completely.
So you've got me really when I'm at my least hyper, because I'm really relaxed today, and I'm delighted to be here.
What did you do in Miami then?
Just mainly relaxing, and then I was on a cruise for 5 days.
Oh, so you just relaxed?
Yeah, so it was nice. It was really relaxing, and I needed it actually because I've been making a lot of TV programs.
Since day dot. I mean, you was when did you? I always like to find what was your first job in media?
Origin? Yeah,
your origin story. Yeah.
So I did a TV production degree in Manchester. Now, that sounds like a bit of a Mickey Mouse degree.
So there wasn't a BBC Manchester. It wasn't there then, was it?
No, there was. Yeah, there was BBC Manchester in Oxford Road, and there was Granada at the time on Key Street. And I decided that I wanted to work in TV from my sort of teenage years.
Right. Having watched what?
Well, it was mainly watching TV shows, and it was all the big Saturday night shows of the time, the entertainment shows, the quiz shows.
So who was big then?
What dancing?
Les Dennis?
Yes, Les Dennis was probably even before Les Dennis.
Children, Les Dennis was a thing. Ask your grandparents; they'll tell you.
Yeah, it was all of those Saturday night shows, Cilla Black and Barry Moore, and those big kind of shows of the day. And I was into Coronation Street, and I liked, I was just a Generation Game. It was that kind of era.
Is that still on Coronation Street?
Yeah. I believe it's year 59.
Yeah, it's been going forever, isn't it? It's the longest. I'm assuming it's the longest running soap in the world, is it?
It is currently
in the UK. Yeah,
yeah. There was a longer running one called The Guiding Light in America, which ran on radio in the 30s and then transferred to TV in the 50s, but recently was cancelled, which is a sign of our TV industry at the moment because obviously
nothing is sacred.
Well, it's not down to anything to do with tradition. It's all down to ratings and money and
Twitter followers.
Yes, bit of everything.
So you're a TV production course. So this was a production company, or was it teaching you the sort of media end of it?
It was at university. It was at the Manchester Metropolitan University. It was a 3-year BA honours degree. I know it sounds very Mickey Mouse, but actually people do degrees in everything these days.
I did a degree in media, and one of my papers was on about Deal or No Deal. So I'm not really in a position to judge anyone. I got the equivalent of a first mark for that.
Well, you did better than me then in that case, because I got a 2-1, and my degree was on Coronation Street. Which I stopped watching, but it was great at the time when I was watching it.
But what does that course entail? Was you actually getting hands on cameras and things? Oh,
yeah.
It was. Yeah,
it was practical. There was a TV studio, and we all did a bit of everything. So one day I was on cameras, the next day I was directing, the next day was vision mixing. So it was really a hands-on course which was pretty much, I'd say, 70 or 80% practical.
Right. Yeah.
And the only real writing that I had to do was in the last year for the 10,000 word dissertation.
Yeah.
But it was a great grounding, and it was one of those courses that was quite recognised within the industry as being a good one. I mean, obviously the really good ones are Ravensbourne and Bournemouth, and they're really hard to get into.
Where's Ravensbourne?
Ravensbourne's in Kent.
Oh.
It's I think it's Chislehurst or somewhere like that, and it's you know, it's almost guaranteed that you will get a job in TV after you've been to Ravensbourne. Mainly technical people go there, so people that want to be cameramen and sound.
So what was your first job when you left?
So what I did, while I was at university, I did work experience at UK Living. It's now just called Living. It might not even be called Living at all now. I don't know. But anyway.
I know the one you mean.
Yeah, it was a channel for women, and they had...
Can you have that nowadays?
What do you mean?
Like with Me Too and all that?
Yeah.
Channel for women?
Well,
what is it? So
as in it's
like,
geared, I would say they have programs that are geared towards women. So
yeah, but that's
ITVB. Well, no, it's not saying only women can watch it. It's just it's
no, but then what are they putting on there? Because that's going to be sexy. If it's sewing and knitting,
I don't think it's sewing and knitting. There are craft channels though.
No, there you go.
Yeah, but they're again, it's not called ITV Woman Men You Can't Watch This. This is just for us.com. It's just called Yeah.
So your first job.
Well, that was work experience. So I went and did work experience at Living, and they had these sort of magazine type shows, and I was kind of like the one that was making the tea for everybody and doing all those basic jobs that I believe everybody has to do in order to get their foot in the door in TV. But then you've got something on your CV, and people can see that you're actually basically passionate about the subject because, you know, there's something relevant at the top of your CV. That is something that I now look for as an employer. You know, if somebody's going to break into the industry, what are you doing in order to prove to me that you're passionate about this and you don't just want to get into it because you think it's something glamorous to do
Somebody
or
said,
an easy job?
As a good tip, I can't remember where it came from. They said they were talking, I think somebody on, might have been Desert Island Disc or something like that, talking about like media. What would you tell to a young media person? Journalism, I think it was. And she said, do you know what I'd do? She said, I'd learn the most obscure language that nobody's ever heard on and just sit on it. And said, one day there'll be a news story somewhere about that country, and somebody will stand up and go, does anybody speak? And that's it. You will be up on the screen. Like you'll be the one goes off.
Anyone speak Hawaiian? Or,
yeah.
Or Navajo?
So go. So
yeah, that's an interesting point. And also with presenters, because I get a lot of presenters messaging me these days, asking for advice on presenting and stuff. And that's another one. You've just hit the nail on the head there, Theo, by saying that what you need is a niche kind of specialism, because actually presenting, you know, generic presenters, you know, why would I hire one person over another person? I want the person with that specialist knowledge. So either kind of get yourself knowledgeable about cars, fashion, or, you know, it's about having that specialism basically. So I started at university. I did work experience at UK Living in my summer holidays. So basically, you know, I'd come home from uni in Manchester, come back down to London and go to Teddington Studios for a month or two at a time and did work experience there. And then when my course was over, I thought I'm going to write lots of letters. I know that's an archaic notion, isn't
A4
it?
pad.
Yes, writing
Ask your
letters
grandparents,
to people. Yeah. And I wrote one. I don't know how I got their details, but I wrote one to a new channel that had just started up in London at LWT called Granada Talk TV, and it was basically a channel that was only a couple of weeks old, and they were looking for people to do work experience there. Okay. So I thought, I'm going to go and do work experience there, and a very nice man called Dan Barraclough, who is now a hotshot at, I don't know which production company he's at, but his parents were Barraclough Carey, one of the big major indies. He basically wrote to me and said, come down and do work experience, and I started there, had a great time for 2 weeks, and at the end of the 2 weeks, I was like, I'd love a job here, I said to somebody, and that person said to me, you should tell them that you can't afford to come in anymore for work experience, and then maybe they'll give you a job. Yeah. And the boss there at the time was a guy called Neil Thompson. He's now the guy that runs Good Morning Britain. He's the editor of Good Morning Britain. Oh, okay. He's a really interesting and lovely guy, one of the nice people in TV. He gave me a job, and that job was on being a researcher on one of their programs. It was a medical program. And I thought, oh my God, I know nothing about medicine.
Right,
And he said to me, you're the researcher, it's your job to find out.
Yeah.
So basically, I started as the researcher on...
So that was your first full-time job?
Yeah, it was a full-time job. I was earning, wait for this,
Go on.
£96 a week, which was the equivalent to £5,000 a year. But I wasn't bothered about the money.
But I mean, assume that who were you living with?
I was living back at home with my folks. And within 3 weeks, that salary had doubled to $10,000 a year, which seemed like a fortune. And basically, I hopped around within that sort of talk TV channel from job to job. People would leave, and then I'd go and do their job, and I just sort of like.
Did you find yourself sort of hopping? I'm doing medical. I'm the researcher on the medical show now. I'm the researcher on the knitting show. And
exactly.
Yeah.
So being a researcher is a talent in itself, is it?
Well, it's sort of one above the entry level. So you're generally these days you're a runner to start with, which is the making the tea type job, and it does involve things like driving and photocopying scripts, all that kind of stuff. And then when you're a researcher, actually they've got a level between that now, which is like junior researcher. It's basically a way of keeping people's salaries down. They go, you're a junior researcher, but actually it's exactly the same job as being a researcher.
What does that mean? Right, I've got a TV show for you. You're the researcher. What do you do? What's the first day? What do you do?
So basically,
do they have something that they want to make a film about, or then
you're supplying the information and sourcing the guests potentially for a show, and writing biogs on the guests and writing synopses. It's basically
not simple, is it really?
Well, the way I look at it is with the editorial is looked after by the producer. So I always say the producer is like an editor of a newspaper. They are in charge of the editorial content of a program. Okay. The director, on the other hand, is in charge of the look of the program, so what shots. Sometimes the producer and the director are the same person. Yeah. But basically,
by editor, you mean the content, not editing.
Yeah. As in head of content type thing. And then the people that facilitate that producer are the researchers and assistant producers, which basically an assistant producer, in my view, is just a really experienced researcher. It's kind of all the same job. But these days, what they do is they do programs much quicker than they used to. So they have really big teams and lots of researchers and lots of assistant producers in order to minimize the production time. So if you start on a program these days, you might only have 4 weeks to find all of the guests, and you're filming by week 4, and then you're done with your contract by week 8. It's all just so quick now. Whereas in my day, 20 years ago, you'd have one researcher on a program, but you'd have maybe 4 or 5 months to make it.
Right.
That said, this Talk TV channel was different because it was all live. It was 6 hours of live TV a day. They had one studio, which they just sort of close the blind, or kind of change the lighting, or make it all red and make it all green. And this channel was on Sky, and there was a medical show in the morning, there was a chat show, there was a sports show, there was a showbiz show. It was literally an hour of everything. Now, Natasha Kaplinsky was one of the unknown presenters on that channel. Heard of her?
Yeah, Strictly winner.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and newsreader. Oh, you hadn't, Theo.
I don't have a TV. So
you're ruining my stories.
I heard
everyone listening knows who Natasha.
Have you heard of the comedy legend Sacha Baron Cohen?
Is he the one that did Ali G?
Yes, he is.
Yes. I know who that is. Yeah. He must have been really young then.
Yeah, he was really young. So he was the host on the kids show, and there was a kids show called F2F, which meant face to face, because the internet was just kind of coming in then, and it was like all like internet speed. And so there were lots of people kind of getting their break at the start of their career, including me, and including a load of people who are much higher up the food chain than me now, like commissioners and CEOs and stuff, all started. And the main point of this channel was everybody was multi-skilled.
Right.
And that means that one day I was operating a camera, one day I was researching a program, another day I was floor managing, the next day I was, I was actually the VT operator for a time, which basically in those days involved recording the program on a master tape and playing in the titles and any VTs that there were. So I kind of did my time doing a bit of
by
everything.
being around it, you just learn by being around. I mean, Orson Welles was famous for saying, he said, I don't think there's any profession that you can't pick up the basics in 3 days of just being there. Like, that's the main thing, just see what actually gets done rather than learning the whole thing.
Yeah.
Other than maybe a brain surgeon, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, don't pick holes in it for the sake of the theatre of the story.
Yes.
So now you're in it, you're a full-time, you're in media now. Are you actually enjoying it at the time?
I love it.
Back then, like when you was jumping around all over.
Oh God, yeah.
It
felt like I was in something really exciting, and I didn't know where my career was going. I kind of left that in the hands of the people that wanted to hire me, and in those days, if you got a good reputation for yourself, people would naturally. Well, it's still the same now, but I was within that company, LWT. Then when the channel ended, I thought, oh my God, I'm never going to work again. It's that classic. It ended after a year. I just thought, oh my God.
Did it get bought up by another company, LWT?
No. Well, LWT was still going, but this channel within LWT, they'd almost done it as an experiment. It was the early days of multi-channel. So probably at the time, there were only a handful of channels on Sky. And Granada LWT had started up this Granada Talk TV. They had Men and Motors. They had Granada Breeze. There's another sexist channel for you, Men and Motors. They had all these channels, and they were just kind of trying them out just to see how they did. I mean, because they probably weren't making any money, but they just wanted to see whether they could compete in the market. And so they ditched Talk TV after a year. I thought, I'll never work again. And luckily enough, LWT tried to redeploy all those workers that they'd worked so hard building up their skill set and redeploy them elsewhere within the company. So luckily, I was then taken on board by a program called Love Bites, which was love, sex and relationships for teenagers.
Fair enough.
It was a daytime Saturday show.
Really?
It was on at like midday on a Saturday, and it was hosted by Anna Richardson, who now is the host of Naked Attraction on Channel 4.
Yeah, because I was trying to... Because I recognised her name, and I thought, what is her... Because that show is... Do you know Naked Attraction, Theo? Okay.
Let's not explain it to him.
Oh, you will hate this. So it's a person goes in to pick it, like a blind date thing.
Yeah.
But it starts off with a reveal. So first of all, it depends on what
reality TV.
It's a studio show.
Yeah. It's not. But it's a dating show. But the idea is that people are inside sort of glass cases, pods that kind of that slowly reveal. But it starts with they're naked inside, hence Naked Attraction. And it starts with their genitals, so they're just from the waist down. See, I know.
You're going to say the ankles and the shoe type.
No, it's just so they're up to the waist, isn't it? And then they turn around and show their bottoms and whatnot.
This is now.
Yeah, this is now.
But what about?
I knew this would blow your mind, huh?
What about like Me Too and sexism and all that?
Well, it's equal opportunities. There's men. There's gay men. There's gay women. There's bisexuals. They've had a. Is it polyamorous? Is that the right word? Where a man and a woman were looking for a female to join their relationship.
Who's applying for that? Like glamour models that want to be seen?
No, it's kind of going the opposite. It's sort of under the auspices, I would say, of trying to be like, hey, this is educational, and this is why people, like
a dating show.
Yeah, but they've thrown the signs to give an excuse to show, willies and fannies on TV.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of that. Why?
The angle is like,
porn?
No, there's no. They don't show them shagging. There's a really awkward bit because what happens is the person that's doing the picking is fully clothed, and then every time they eliminate someone, they come out and they're like, "Oh, you're right," and they have a hug, but the other person's naked. It's really awkward.
This is horrendous.
Yeah, I knew you would hate this.
I don't know what's curious type programs where
is it Channel 5?
Channel 4, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh. Channel 4.
Yeah.
Are you besmirching Channel 5?
Five would have them shagging. I thought it might be. Four would just show them.
I know it's not the BBC.
No, BBC did have a show about it, but that was just people chatting, wasn't it? I don't think they actually showed them, because Channel 4 or 5 did have a show recently where it showed people having sex, but it was all like a group therapy thing, so not in the room, not what they had sex. They would have watched the sex.
We can't do that sort of thing well. normal sex talk. It doesn't work
Naked
here.
Attraction's been going for a while, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I
3-4
thought it
years.
was like a.
No, it's hugely popular.
Yeah. On Twitter, whenever it's on, it's always trending, which is probably
That's what annoys me. That these things work.
Producers. Yeah, because I think it's people going, "Oh my god."
But that's the freak show then. That you're talking
Yeah,
about.
basically it is. I would say it's basically a freak show. Yeah, it's a Victorian freak show.
And what's interesting as well is Anna Richardson, as I say, get yourself a specialism. Her specialism is obviously then love and sex because she's kind of taken that angle for all of her career. So, that is her shtick.
Oh,
so, yeah.
But is she a sort of registered GP or something?
No.
Therapist?
No.
What does she do?
She's a sex presenter.
But what did she do before that?
Well, she was on Love Bites with me 20
so
years
she
ago.
has
So,
been,
yeah.
yeah. Oh.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Maybe then, she might
Get
be
yourself a specialism.
Because often people, but it's always interesting when you see a presenter go, "Oh, why is this person doing that? What's their?" It's funny how our brains go, "Oh, but they only do DIY shows. Why are they doing a show about whatever?" And you, this isn't right. I need to call the mayor of television.
I was watching something recently and they're talking about lawyers or policemen, and they say when they had to get homicides in America, that to investigate certain things or groups, they said they would look for people that are actually interested in that area. Like they're talking about the Biggie and Tupac thing, so they found somebody that liked rap music and said, right, because they know they'll.
Well, it's almost the research thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah,
because if you're, if someone says, "Oh,
So
you're interviewing a suspect," and they go, "Oh yeah, Biggie and Tupac had a beef," you don't know what beef means. You're like,
meat.
So they went and had a burger, and what they fought over. You know what I mean? So you do need to have someone who can explain.
So what's your proclivity? What do you sort of tend to go towards? Have you been able to do that, or have you just gone job to job?
I am definitely somebody that is a specialist in blooper type shows.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So what happened after Love Bites is I was hanging around, to see what else might be coming up. And a friend of mine, Spencer Austin, said, "Oh, you should go and meet Paul Lewis, who's the producer of It'll Be All Right on the Night. And he's looking for another researcher soon." So I went to meet Paul Lewis, and he was very nice to me and gave me a job with me having no experience of having done it before. And all of a sudden I was researching on a program that was getting 15 million viewers.
So what are you researching, though?
So for that...
Yeah.
It's about finding the content for the program. So that is
where did you go
blooper
back then?
show.
Because you haven't got internet.
No, very good question. So in those days, we would have to write to TV companies all around the world, fax them, tell them all about our show, which had been running since 1977 and was hugely popular in the UK.
So when was it that you joined it? So you
we're going back to 98 now.
Okay, so even at that point it had been running for 22. Because is it still going? Is Dennis Norman still
No,
alive?
Dennis recently passed away. He was 96.
Yeah, because he kept going pretty much till the end. If I'm
He did.
not mistaken.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he presented it until he was 84.
Blimey.
And then Griff Rhys-Jones did it for the last 8 years, and recently David Walliams has done some.
Yeah, I was going to say
haven't done.
that popped
Yeah.
into my head.
How do you convince companies to give you the bits that they don't want you to see?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and it's something that is a task in itself, because actually...
Did it come down to just money? You just weighed in with the money?
Not really. No, not always anyway. But in those days, there was no YouTube. Yeah. And so these things weren't readily available. They were hidden away. They were tucked away. And they were often forgotten because people are busy making the TV show that they're making.
Course,
and they don't necessarily, even though there might be gold to mine, they don't think there is anything. And quite often you'll call somebody up. So it started with a phone call. You'd call them up. You'd introduce yourself. And it's all about creating relationships. I still do it to this day. You call people, get a little bit of a rapport going, try and talk them into, get them to buy into what you're doing, and ask them very nicely if they've got anything that they might be able to dig out for you. So once you then find something, it might just be one clip, or it might be a blooper reel of some sort that's hidden away. In those days, what we used to do was we used to watch the VHS. Remember those kids?
Yep.
So a VHS would come. So it would get sent to us, posted to us, and if it was abroad, that we had a FedEx account, and they could send us the clips at our expense. So the LWT would pay for the FedEx, so it didn't cost them anything to send. We get a screener. We'd watch the screener. we'd pick out the clips that we thought were good. We'd then bike them to Dennis Norden's office. He had an office in Rathbone Street, and he would sit in his own office and watch every single clip that we sent him.
Wow.
He would then write his descriptions of the clips with the in-time code and the out-time code and a duration
He wasn't
and a
just
rating.
a presenter then. He was a okay, right.
Yeah, he is one of the very few people in TV that was totally hands-on. He didn't have a producer credit or an executive producer credit.
He didn't. So he was doing this
He was doing
professionalism.
it solely because he was a writer and he wanted to create and shape the show himself, and he wanted that kind of input. So he literally watched every clip that was sent to him and chose them. And in some cases, you'd work really hard finding, a tape, a VHS tape. It would come and there would be something really half-hearted on it that was just not funny at all. And you'd done all of that work.
Sneezing in a tape.
Yeah,
great.
Exactly. I mean,
Tokyo.
it was such a difficult show to do that we only ever made sort of 2 a year, really. And all of them, we'd need 100 clips in a show. And this is pre the days of internet where you could just kind of Google something and find it. This was physical, going to find things, going to befriend archives, physically going to the archives to actually watch maybe something that they don't want to send you because it only exists on one tape. And, let's go and watch it then. Okay, we'll go to this archive. And eventually, we'd have probably, in an ideal world, 200 to 300 possible clips to go in a show to then whittle down to 100, and they'd be from all over the world, all different sources, and then we'd have to do a thing that you're going to be aghast at. We had to every single person in every single clip. So you'd have this great clip with, for example, I'm not talking with Tales Out of School here, but you'd have somebody like Chris Evans, and he'd always say no to the clips. Jamie Oliver was the same. He would never let you use his clips. So, but most people were absolutely fine with it. The real legends of the world, like the Judi Denches and the, Maureen Lipmans, they'd always say yes. Even like, we'd have clips.
Chris Evans, because it's like you work in production. Like if you, how would you feel if you were making, you have a production company.
Plus, you must be on the side. You'd think he'd be that sort of
I can
person.
sort of, maybe if Jamie Oliver's like, oh no, I want to present this. I suppose because the idea is like, you can make this meal in, this is probably predates the 15-minute meal, but the idea of like, oh, it's so easy to make these meals, and then if he's buggering it up every time, they're going, oh, maybe it's not that easy if you're a chef and you keep... So you can sort of understand that, but Chris Evans, that seems a bit...
And we'd be clearing people like Dustin Hoffman, and they come back straight away. Really? Literally the biggest stars in the world, and then it's somebody like Chris Evans. It's like, oh, for goodness sake, I don't know why he always said no. There was another one that we had trouble with, who was Peter Kay. While he was in Coronation Street in probably the early noughties.
Was an actor?
Yeah, he was in it almost as a favour to his friend Sally Lindsay, I think. He was in it for maybe 5 episodes or something, but because he's so funny, naturally funny, there were funny outtakes where he would just burst into laughter and stuff like that. We had about 6 really good clips of his, and he said yes to us using them, and then changed his mind afterwards. He'd signed the contract and everything, and it was like we were really banking on those. So it was one of those jobs that...
but what happens if he signed it? Would it be a case of... You could use them, but it wouldn't be politic to use them after you. Yeah. The lawyers at ITV at the time were like, we're just going to have to respect that. So
how long were you solidly doing that job for? Solidly doing it?
So I did. I was a researcher 98, 99. And then my boss at the time, Nigel Lithgow, said, Simon is wasted doing these shows. We want him to do other shows. But basically, Nasty Nigel, who was on Popstars, he was the head of the entertainment department. And, these were these were the days of all those big LWT Saturday night juggernaut type shows. We're talking Blind Date, Surprise, Surprise, Gladiators. They were big shows.
It would be crazy to say to people now, like, there was a show that was just, whatever it might have been, whatever your viewers, they've got, 15 million, 20 million people watching. They talk about the X Factor now.
We've only got 3 channels.
Yeah, but still, it's, disappointing ratings. It's got 5 million. And they said if you launched a show now with 5 million, it's only because comparatively it was getting 10, 15 when it started. And obviously Popstars predates it. It probably got even more, I would have thought. Because did that do 2, 3 series?
Yeah, Nigel eventually left the department to go and work on Popstars, and then became a huge star in America and ended up dating Priscilla Presley and having all sorts of wonderful life.
So that was the first X Factor sort of thing.
Yeah, this was slightly later on. We were talking early noughties now.
Okay, yeah, sorry, we skipped.
So yeah. No, he was the head of the entertainment department.
Did I tell you I went to the audition for the second Big Brother?
No, but I can totally picture you in Big Brother.
I didn't know
everyone.
No, bearing in mind the first one seemed like a social experiment.
It did, didn't it? It was the genuine, and they didn't know.
And the second one, I went and I didn't know. I was doing photography. I was doing security. I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. And I went to somewhere. I can't remember where it was, but I know it was near a river, and we all had to queue up. And there's about 500 people there, and you had to go into a tent, I think, and record like 2 minutes you saying something to the camera. But the whole way walking to, there's 2 people in front of me. And there's one girl in front of me kept talking about herself to the point of sort of like a lunatic to the other girl. Not talking to herself, I mean talking about herself, sorry. To this other girl who was just listening. And
what do you mean saying like, I am a...
She kept going on about the fact that, I don't know what it is, but people just like me. And I don't know, it's like my mum says it and my friend says, but like I can be on
my mum says she likes me.
She kept on and kept on and kept on. And the other one was sort of so polite, she kept going, oh, okay, oh no, that's not... But she kept on. And then I just got about 20 people and I thought, what am I doing here? So
walked off, yeah.
I'd been there about an hour. And anyway, so would you ever go on any reality show? Yeah, I could see, what's the one in the forest?
I'm a Celebrity.
Yeah.
The forest.
I mean, it's a jungle.
It is a jungle out there, by the way.
Hang on, forest and a jungle, what's the difference?
One's a bit tropical.
Jungle is tropical, tends to be, isn't it? And forest is, what we got.
Oh,
not the
what we got. There's those English lessons.
I told you I did media.
What we got.
I'd love to do a come dine with me. Actually, I would love to.
Yeah.
But how? Because obviously you've peeked behind the curtain. How real is that? How is that?
Well, it's real. Yeah, it is real.
Yeah.
Those people are out there. I don't think you have to do a lot.
Oh no.
Put a camera on them.
Is there ever a producer behind the scenes going?
There will be, yes.
You go. Oh no, but I mean, what I mean is that they're going. Oh, go on, have a go at him. Tell him, exaggerate. Oh, you found a hair. Go on. Isn't that really gross? You should get more cross. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you watch Gogglebox, those people aren't sat alone making those comments.
No.
I always think it's such a coincidence that they all sing the theme tune to a program at exactly the same time.
Because are they presumably watching screeners or tapes, or they're not watching live?
They're watching screeners. Yeah.
I was a little disappointed recently when I was listening to Melvin Bragg channel. What does he do? Radio 4.
Oh, well, yes, In Our Time is Radio 4.
And he slipped up. He said, "Oh, that was a good show." He went, "And no re-records." And laugh. I thought, don't tell me they make them re-say things. It sounds like a conversation.
And now they're making them... but there might be corrections. There might be technical glitches.
Anyway, I suppose that's...
Or they may say something that's factually inaccurate that some researcher then goes, hold on a sec.
Yeah. They might get... If it's... Because sometimes you do hear them in the show going, oh, actually, I just realised I incorrectly said blah, blah, blah. But if it's quite a significant... thing, they probably would have to. They might want to re-record it to avoid confusion.
So you'd be up first. Come dine with me.
I think so. Yeah.
What would
I
you
think
cook?
it'd be hilarious. Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm sort of one of these cooks that just throws things in and hopes for the best.
You haven't got a special dish. You'd have to learn to cook.
Not
something.
Really. I'd learn to cook something, and they always seem to have funny names for things like chicken a la Simon or something. It's just like
and then you look at it and you go, it's a chicken Kiev.
Yeah, basically.
You always think. I love the people that go berserk on that show. That's what I'm always waiting. There's there was one where there's a couple on YouTube you can find that they're brilliant because you're like, what? It's nothing to sniff at £1,000, but it's the way they're so invested in I must win. Yeah, it's nothing to sniff at.
Is that
also
not 1,000?
I think it is 1,000, isn't it? Something like that. And it's not. So it's not a life-changing sum of money. Again, it's nothing to sniff at. £1,000. It's not. It's thank you very much. I'll have that. Very nice. But it's not gonna. You're not buying a house with £1,000, so it's not that kind of money. But people go berserk.
Yeah, it's the personality,
it's the egos.
Yeah, that's what it is. There was one where the lady she started reading. I think she went in fourth place, it's me, and then went off on one. She's swearing and screaming at these people and shouting at them. You're like, complete sociopath. And then another bloke who said, again, I think he came. He didn't even read the list. He just read who the winner was. And said, it was the famous one. He's like, what a sad little life. Yeah. Get out of my house. Yeah. And the camera crew were like, I mean, they probably loved it. The producers were just like, thank you. But, it's just that awkward moment of like, so we've got to pick up the kit back and get out my house. Yeah.
I had a lovely time, by the way, making one of the DVDs for that program.
Oh, what, for the bloopers or?
No, it was just a DVD compilation that they did called Come Dine With Me Extra Spicy, and I had to watch pretty much every episode of Come Dine With Me. Oh, so I kind of got quite used to like the mechanics of how they did it after a while, even though I'd never actually worked on an episode. Right. Yeah. I watched all of them and I kind of got to note the format points, because every program, probably unknown to viewers, every program has format points to them. They're specific things that basically makes the program work. Like so in other words, on the X Factor, for example, it's about the fact that if there's a good sort of sob story, then that person's got to get through regardless of whether they're a good singer or not, because of the fact that the audience wants them to get through. So it's basically it's the mechanics of what makes a show work.
So what were some of your favourite shows that you've worked on? What was you doing with the Surprise Surprise and the Cilla Black?
Oh, yeah. That was a great show. That was, as somebody that... What I like is when I watch a show as a viewer and then I get to work on it. That's
I remember
great.
watching that as a kid.
I did actually her very last show that was broadcast. It was 2001. I was still a researcher at the time. I was just on the brink of taking that next step up, and I was the only researcher on the program. And I had to find probably about 8 or 9 people that would be surprised on that program. And in those days, it was letters, that old-fashioned notion again. Yes. People would write into the show, and you'd read the letters, and obviously the ones that kind of got chosen, if they were wanting to meet somebody, for example, would be based on like who we could get at that time. So I remember we had kind of like Russell Watson had an album coming out, and so there was somebody that was a lifelong fan of Russell Watson with a great backstory, and so she was one of the stories we picked. And then Blue were big at the time, and it was just amazing.
Did you work on Blind Date?
I did work on Blind Date briefly. I worked doing the backstage filming in the days when they'd come off set and then they'd give their thoughts on how it had gone. It was kind of getting into the reality era by that stage.
How much was that real then? Did they not have met? Like they weren't actors or anything?
No, they weren't actors.
Genuinely single people. Yeah. Hadn't seen each other.
Yes, correct. And they go to great lengths to keep them apart. Oh, okay, right. And, Cilla was one of the big stars of the era. She was a huge Saturday. She was Saturday night for so many years. And so, therefore, to work on that type of program was such an honor for me as somebody that sort of, had sort of was rising the ranks within this company.
I mean, there weren't much bigger shows.
Was she nice?
Yeah,
I would have thought so, but
she was a star though. Yeah, she was a star, and there was definitely a sort of an air of you don't talk to her unless you're spoken to type thing.
But is that she was almost Hollywood status in London? I mean, there was
she was a massive singer, wasn't she? That was the we always forget about. Yeah. But she was a huge pop star before she.
Would you ever go on a dating show?
Would I ever go on a dating? Naked Attraction? I get no, I wouldn't.
Would you not?
No, I wouldn't.
But you look like you would be on there.
I don't know how to.
Sort of modern look, like a modern.
Yeah, I was eliminated. No, what I have the what? Sorry,
like trendy. No,
well, last week I was getting shit for my pink jumper. I'm surprised I've got away with coral this week.
Coral,
exactly, mate.
We're having a jumper off here.
We are having a jumper. Oh.
So you wouldn't go on there?
No.
Do you need to go on there? By the way,
I think we should get him on there. If anything comes up. Because I want him to find love. I'd like him to be in love. I think if people are more in love, they're happier. So I think if everyone was in love, Karem's just married recently, so he's sorted.
That's good. He's like, I feel like I've got to. She'll be listening. Blink twice, Karem.
If it came up and they said, "Look, we need somebody," you wouldn't do it.
No, I'd do it if they needed a stand-in for a rehearsal type thing.
Why would you not do it though?
I don't know. It's a bit weird.
But you're in media.
Yeah, but it's a
Hang
bit
on,
weird.
are you out of work now?
No, after tonight.
Oh, I was going to say, it should
Yeah.
have run out. Your contract's run out.
Yeah. No, well, technically I'm contracted to the end of the year, but we're not having to do anything.
Oh, okay.
It's just a bit weird. We're basically on gardening leave till the end of the year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you wouldn't do it on principle?
No, I
Is
just
this a
wouldn't. I would just find it a
Like
bit
blind
weird.
date? Would
I'd
you
just
go
be
blind-
too self-aware and too
Oh, okay.
self-conscious.
You just wouldn't feel right.
I'd just be
Private
sniggering.
person, obviously.
Yeah, I'd be too busy sniggering during the whole
right.
thing.
You feel like I'm in here to mock the thing.
No, I wouldn't be mocking it, but I would just be too self-conscious, self-aware, and I'd just be like that the whole way.
Was
through.
there any TV show you'd go on?
Dancing? No, I wouldn't do the dancing one. Only because my
Cooking.
parents dance, and so
Oh, okay.
I know I would just get
You'd
so
have
much
to take
shit if I got it
yeah.
wrong. Like
Cooking? Would you go make cooking?
no, because I can't cook.
All right. What show would you go on then? Must be something. What are you into?
Crime Watch.
These days, we can all sort of be on TV.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
I mean, it's so there's
think
so
YouTube
much
as
demand.
Well, you're being filmed now, so
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I know there's just so much demand for people and content. There's a lot of content these days
Yeah.
that needs people, and there are lots of ways to get on
Yeah.
TV. And I'm sure eventually, Warhol
We'll all
style,
have
we
TV.
will all have our 15
What's
minutes
your
of fame.
favourite show that you've worked on?
My favourite has to be the one that I worked on the longest. It'll Be Alright on the Night, because
Was that your favourite show or your favourite job?
well, let
Was it
me
both?
tell you, when I was
There's quite a lot of pressure to have to keep coming up with that stuff when there wasn't internet.
It is, but that's what makes it interesting as a job. Essentially, it's the same job repeating itself the
Right.
more you work on something, but the pressure to make it good
Yeah.
is the pressure that makes it then a challenge. So, when I was 13 years old and I first got a VCR, back in those days, again, look that up, kids, the very first show that I recorded on that VCR, on tape number 1, of probably what ended up to be about 300 tapes, was It'll Be Alright on the Night in 1987. And I loved that show, and it was a treat when it came on. And the fact that I then got to work on it was
It was real
amazing.
appointment of you as well, wasn't
Yeah.
it? It was good. I think, again, because it doesn't pre-existed the internet,
Mm.
it was also less, you got less of the whole, let's see the making of, let's see behind the curtain, let's how the thing is, let's see how the thing is made. You never got that.
Are the blooper shows now still going on?
Yes. I'm still making them.
There was something, there's something on, I think it's 5 or 4 as their kind of late night, TV.
So
bloopers
your job
others.
must be easy now for the internet. But you're
that
after-
makes it
there's
easier.
so many people doing it.
Yeah, that makes it easier. But now, with people being ridiculed for their bloopers, the licensing of the blooper can sometimes be harder, and there's more layers of kind of like permissions to go through, because even though the talent may say yes, the person that's the company that owns the footage may say, we don't do bloopers. The Americans are famous at that. We don't do bloopers.
Right.
In other words, we don't make mistakes. Well, you do. There's one there that I want for my program. So
Starbucks coffee cup and on the Iron Throne.
From seeing a piece of footage, how long does it take before you've got it and it's going in?
it can sometimes be really quick when you're the one that's making the decision as to whether
Yeah,
it's going
right.
in or not,
Yeah.
as I am now, because I'm the producer. I can kind of go, I want that one, go after it. And I know, I also know which companies are liable to let us have
okay,
them.
yeah.
So I never go to like the likes of NBC in America or any of those big networks, Paramount, because I know, well, you'll be paying $5,000 per clip if you go to any of those big companies, which
Yeah, I was gonna
TV
say,
budgets
For like
can't
movies
afford.
and things,
Yes.
that's just forget it.
It's a no-no, yeah. I mean, you do see movies on blooper shows, but they do this thing called fair dealing, which basically means that they're using the clip without seeking any permissions, but by doing so, they're reviewing it or critiquing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so when you see these like movie mistake shows on BBC Three where they go, oh my God, look, somebody's wearing a wristwatch in a period drama. They haven't actually licensed it correctly.
Right.
They've kind of gone, I'm going to rip this off YouTube or a DVD and put it in my show and put a little whenever you see a caption in the corner that says 20th Century Fox
Oh, okay,
or
right.
whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
they're crediting the company that they're basically ripping it from.
Because you'll see on film criticism shows, they'll do the same thing. They'll have
Right.
they'll have the clip. I mean, they're more happy for that because obviously the film critic, it's as long as they're not trashing the film, it's publicity.
When they're promoting it, there's there's a window of opportunity, and they actually give out clips that they let you use. But yeah, I mean, the whole clip thing is now. I mean, even Dennis Norden was kind of like, how do you do this in the age of the YouTube? Because now our threshold of expectation is higher as well, because you can't just have, as you said, somebody sneezing. It's got to be spectacular in order to make people laugh. So it's harder to make funny blooper shows as time progresses, but a challenge which I relish.
So you're freelancing now? Or
So I stayed at ITV until 2006. I ended up being producer of It'll Be Alright on the Night, a very young age, 28, working with Dennis Norden. And I left in 2006, was the first time I was made redundant, not the last. And then I had to go freelance in the big wide world. I then ended up working for a company called Wedding TV, which was a Sky channel. And they had lots of money of investment, and they had aspirations to make their own original programming. And I was hired to be the head of programming. So basically I came up with the program ideas. At the beginning it was just me making them on my own, sort of shooting and editing and doing all that multi-skilled thing that I'd learnt at
I'm going to ask the very obvious question. What's Wedding TV? I feel like I've
it's
answered
a very
my own question.
I need to answer you in a non-obvious way, I think. So it just
sounds
sounds patronising.
Because it's not a shopping channel.
It was a channel at the time that they'd bought in all the programs. So they were things like Say Yes to the Dress, all those wedding themed channels. The wedding industry is huge. It's a multi-billion pound industry, and the average spend of a wedding is something like £25,000 to £30,000. So there's a lot of money in the wedding industry.
Didn't Asda get in trouble? No, not in trouble, but they were selling a George wedding dress, and it was like £50 or something. Do you remember that?
Well, no, I don't remember. But why would you get in trouble for that? What were people?
No, I don't know why I use that word. But I remember there was some
people were mocking it.
Yeah, I think probably. Yeah.
But again, that's like, well, that's fine if you've got money and you can mock it. But maybe if you've not got a lot of money, your budget might be £50.
Exactly.
But then you shouldn't be getting married. What?
Jesus.
If you only got £50, why have a ceremony?
You can get married for virtually nothing.
Do it for free. That's what I'm saying.
These days, it's trendy to be spendthrift, and actually, the cheaper you do it,
I still
the
think
more
it should be.
kudos you get.
I keep saying you shouldn't be allowed to get married till you're 30. I think you should, for the sake of society, just bring that in. Just stop having, because we've got too many divorces, and you're not allowed to have more than 20 people at your wedding. Because then the only people you want will be the ones you're there. Because it's too much of a stress.
If you've got a big family, though.
If you go to sort of Europe, it gets. I'll add a few on. You're going to go up to like 50.
Yeah,
but nobody bothers.
I mean, not that they would be, but for example, if my grandmother was one of 20 children, so
you can apply for a
sisters. Then there's no.
No, I'm riffing on here. Yeah. I'd work out the specifics. But I think
you tried to tell me that you've come up with some crazy idea without necessarily thinking the mechanics all the way.
But it works.
Because that's never.
No, I'm not the semantics of it. It's good. Why do you laugh at it? That would work. That is better for everybody, because you're just thinking about the people involved. I'm talking about society on a whole.
Right.
If you can't get married till you're 30, that means marriages will be more special. You'd look forward to it, and you'd sort of revere
people
it
would
more.
be living in
I don't think that many people do get married before 30 these days.
No, but too many people get married and then divorce. And
getting pregnant is another thing.
Yeah.
Maybe they shouldn't get pregnant until they're 30.
Yeah, that's a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be.
But that's for another show.
Yeah, exactly.
I say don't do anything till you're 30. I'm not being funny.
Just
work,
lie
everything.
on the grass.
Work. Don't do anything till you're 25. Just have jobs.
Yeah.
Till you figure out what you. Because it's about depression. People do go up too many ladders that they can't get down because now they've got a mortgage and a thing associated with their job, and it leads to depression thing because they can't stop doing that and do the thing that they should have done to start with. But when you're 20, you don't know what the bloody hell you want to do. Oh, let's get off of this. But this is
so Wedding TV.
I had a lovely time working at Wedding TV. I travelled all over the world. They sent me to these honeymoon destinations. I travelled every Caribbean island. It was amazing, an amazing time. And I was kind of like, I went to my bosses with program ideas, and they literally said, "Yeah, let's do that." And it was the freest time that I've ever experienced on TV. It was fantastic. We won Best Channel at the Broadcast Awards 1 year, and we won Best Channel at the FreeSat Awards the next year. We were doing really good things, really good things, and making kind of a name for ourselves even though we had a very small
I'm
budget.
concerned
And
there's a
we're
butt coming here.
Yes, the big but. I'll remember when I said I was made redundant for the first time
Yes,
in
that's
2006.
well,
I was
yeah.
made redundant for the second time in 2010 when it all came crashing down and all the money had been spent. So
Yeah, I was because how does a channel go bust? They just don't get
Well,
enough advertising revenue.
it was a difficult time because 2008, of course, the economic
Yeah,
crash,
yeah.
and people weren't spending the sorts of money that they used to on advertising because all the purse strings were getting tightened. And it was $1 million idea, to coin a phrase, but it just it wasn't feasible. And of course, as well, there were flaws like the Barb rating system, which is basically how you measure the success of a program, how many viewers are tuning in.
Yeah.
When you're at channel 266, and also when the Barb system is being calculated by households as opposed to single people, as in, like
If you're in a house
a
share
young
with
lady that might be watching on her own is not calculated because it's only in households of families. So, yeah, basically, it all ended for me. I was made redundant again at aged 32.
I mean, but at least it was the whole. It was the whole company. I was for when it's the redundancy. It was the
One
redundancy of the
person
whole company.
Yeah, although I was the first to go because I was the most expensive. So I guess,
Well, it sort of works.
That is like The Simpsons. We regret to announce
Yeah.
the following redundancy.
You're too expensive.
Just
Okay,
one.
fair enough. That's
Yeah,
not a bad
exactly.
thing.
They're like,
you
yes, I
mentioned
am.
the
Thank you.
rating thing. So I've never known that. How do they class? How do they know who's watching what TV show?
Right. Have you ever met anybody that's met the Queen?
Yes.
Okay, I'll take a yes from Theo.
Right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
met Tony Blair once.
There you
So he
go.
Met the Queen.
So we've all got these connections to
Hang
really
on, sorry.
far
How
out.
did you meet
Hold
Tony
on.
Blair? How did you meet Tony Blair?
So he came to our school one day. This was when this was just before the Iraq War, so he was still very popular. It was in the
right,
build up to
okay.
the election,
Okay.
the next election, I think it was, and they just needed a bunch of dweeby kids who weren't going to cause any shit for the photo call.
Oh, so you won.
So I was top of the list.
Well done.
Yeah.
Right. So
So we know people that have met the Queen,
Yeah,
Tony
yeah.
Blair, but I've never ever met anybody with a Barb box in their house. I don't know who these elusive people are.
I've
but-
also never met anybody who works for a cigarette company or was associated with a cigarette company, which I find odd. With all the cigarettes.
I think that's
everywhere.
something that people would deny more than anything.
Well, I could have a story about that, but I won't talk about it on
Okay,
here.
fair enough.
Go. So,
So yeah, it's basically you've got a black box on top of or inside your TV that measures what channel you're watching.
But they know
and
it's in there. It's not like
yeah,
China.
they know it's in there. I think they probably get paid to be on the panel as well. And if they watch a program, it's in sort of quarter of an hour increments as well, so you can see when you get the ratings through if your program's going up and down. You can kind
and they're
of
just living a
literally
normal
see.
life. They're just going to work,
Yeah.
turning it on. It's not
Yeah.
telling you to watch a certain
Yeah.
thing. And
It's a meant to be a cross-representative sample of
what, like,
households.
you just
in
get a
the
letter
UK.
through the post. Would you just say, "Would you like to do this?"
I think you're probably invited to do it, I would imagine.
'Cause I was worrying, like where they'd look for it would be sort of tainting the pool. If you
that it will inevitably have to be
Yeah.
all over the UK.
Yeah.
So there'll be people from Penzance to.
But I mean, they're not putting an
Inverness.
advert in the back of Reader's Wives.
No.
Readers' wives.
I've just tried to.
That would explain the huge ratings on Babe Station.
Yeah.
I've got a story about it.
Of course, yeah.
It's quite a big story, actually.
I
can't talk about it.
Okay,
Can't talk
fine.
about it.
You can't keep talking. We're gonna have to do some sort of Vialucci after dark.
A blooper reel.
Yeah,
for me,
exactly. There we
actually.
go. We got it.
Yeah, you need to save your bloopers if you get any.
Well,
I
I
shall
come out the
fall off the
gutter,
chair.
so like I've got a lot of dark stories.
Yes, we know.
But I've always been on the right side, so the elite, like I can.
Simon, let me fill you in. What happens is Theo starts the story with, I was right because, and then me and the guest, or me and Charles, the other co-host, we decide whether it was
but
bad.
it's not. But tell me. Oh no, I'll always defend because I don't say things out of emotions. I
Yeah.
think about society on the whole.
Yeah.
So I don't even class me. I'll go against myself. But it's for the whole. But everyone else who laughs, they're the ones that are doing it selfishly. Like when you're talking about the wedding, you're just talking about individual people. I'm talking about in terms of marriage as an entity.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
what
he's
I'm
still
trying
on
to
the
say.
wedding thing.
We asked anything.
Right. So yeah.
So ratings, they were once huge when there were 3 channels, and now they're not so huge
yeah.
because there's
But how do they keep up with
303
ratings
channels.
now? Unless it's online. They still doing that?
Yes. Well, it's easy to quantify who's watching online because you can,
the numbers are there.
Yeah, the numbers are there.
They can just go, this is the downloads, isn't it?
Yeah,
Do they?
and eventually we'll find out who's watching Netflix and stuff. I think they're up for kind of like joining the system.
Because they've been very reticent to say
they have until now.
Which is really odd, isn't it? I suppose
they really?
they don't release their viewing figures. They might say, oh, this is our most streamed thing, but that could be 10 people.
But what's interesting about them is, of course, you're dealing with a world of ratings.
Yeah.
So, every single country
Although
around the
it is
world.
geo-locked, isn't it? Certain things.
Yeah, right? Probably.
Yeah, I think some things are you can't get here and there and vice versa.
I logged onto Netflix once about a couple of years ago, and it was the American version.
Yeah.
Which you think would be the same. I thought it's not. And everything was in dollars. And it was like, what? And then about an hour later, it snapped back.
Yeah, that's happened a few times where they've had glitches. So if there's a big show and it's because it's going out live, I think they've had that with things like maybe not Game of Thrones, but something where it was meant to go out live. They already had the copy to then go out later,
right?
But whoops, somebody released it, and then obviously immediately someone's ripping it and going right, there's torrent, boom. Yeah, so they've had trouble for that.
What TV shows do you watch?
Now, I still watch all the things that I used to watch. I watch an awful lot of retro things. Like I love Challenge TV.
No, I was going to say, because if we was doing podcasting, I'd still listen to podcasts.
Yeah, but it is a bit like the...
TV.
Yeah, I love TV still. Right. I tend to watch sort of documentaries and things that I don't work on. I don't really watch other people's clip shows because they really infuriate me. If I've not made them myself, then I'm not
you always something and go, oh, the way they've constructed these clips in this order is completely, they should do this.
So what shows do you watch then?
So I mainly watch like documentaries. I've watched the BBC sort of Met Police documentary recently. I'm sort of watching stuff like that. I'm not really following anything drama-wise.
Is there something you wouldn't do? Like if there's a medical show or you have to have operations, is there something you wouldn't do?
Well, let me tell you, the way TV works is basically you are hired on the strength of your last job. So I will only ever get hired really to do sort of entertainment-y type shows. I'll never be working on Panorama because there are more qualified people. I'll never be working on sport because I know nothing about sport. That said, I did once do a World Cup show on ITV with Angus Deaton. It was called World Cup Epic Fails, and I think I would dare to say that was probably the funniest show that I ever did because Angus Deaton is just so amazing at delivering really dry lines.
Still sort of in TV jail, isn't he? In TV jail.
Yeah, do you know what? It's funny because he had since hosted Hell's Kitchen since his scandal.
He did the first couple of 9 News or whatever.
Have I Got News for You?
Yeah, and he got... you used to work on that?
I've done bits on it, and so he
the host got done for a meeting.
He basically had sex with prostitutes and there was cocaine involved, but I think because it happened two different instances, but because it then led to roughly similar time, but it was like there was a headline, it was like it was a one-off kind of thing. It was like actually it turns out there was another one, and because it's hard to be the satirist when you can't be holding up other people to going if he was sort of doing I don't know some laddie type.
He wasn't beating her up or anything.
No.
So man has sex.
But it was it's difficult to then lay into other people, as you're saying.
Yeah. Somebody told me yesterday, don't have a go at me for saying this, right? Because I don't know if it's true or not.
I will wait to see if I'm going to
I'm just relaying the information, and I don't know if he's winding me up. He said that Steve Coogan, because I was talking about how much I like Steve, because I was staying in a travel lodge.
Having sex with someone on a pile of money?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because I was
allegedly.
I had to stay in a travel lodge the last couple of days. So, but anyway, and I was joking about it does feel like Alan Partridge is about to walk in. It feels like a cliche of like, and so he called me Alan Partridge, and I said, we started talking about Steve Coogan. I can't remember why, but he said, oh yeah, and do you remember when he got done? I'm just saying what he said, shagging the girl over the balcony.
I know this story, and I've heard it from multiple
people. Because they said
people.
Then he went on to be really annoyed with he started doing speeches about journalism, freedom of speech, and about filming you and all that. And he said he hasn't really got the right, considering he was having sex with somebody and got filmed or photographed.
So he was having. So what he got done for? Indecent exposure or something like that?
No, he didn't get done. But it was the fact of the story came out that he was having sex with them and leaving over the balcony. But is that true then?
I don't know. Is it true?
I couldn't say. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't there.
Doesn't seem to be. It sort of took us down a dead end there. We've got no.
But it's interesting that we hold up a celebrity. I mean, because have you ever been working on a show at the time and it's like, maybe I appreciate it might be difficult to name names, but you've ever had a show where you go, so-and-so, you're working with, this never happened, obviously. You're on a show with Scylla, and then there's a headline going, Scylla yells at waitress, but something more extreme. She punches the waitress for getting her order wrong.
I haven't had anything like that. I've been told not to talk to the press at various times because certain stories might be coming out.
To be clear, that thing with Zilla, that's just something I've made up completely.
A dear friend of mine who ended up being the head of entertainment at ITV was working with Scylla on the show when she quit live
when she quit on air. Yeah.
So he had to deal with that, and apparently she told him just before she went on that she was going to make an announcement and not to worry and just basically go with it. So,
that's quite nice. That's quite respectful.
Yeah,
because they moved her show, didn't they? They moved. That was, I think, the big, basically massive. It was still, although the ratings were
blind date.
Not when her husband died and she gave up to a thing or something.
No, I think
she quit. It was a quitting. I'm out of it.
Yeah. So essentially, although the ratings were lower, they were still massive.
Yeah.
But it was just like, you're only getting 15 million now instead of 20. And they had, I think ITV had the Premiership. They had a sports show, didn't they? And they bumped her later. It was something.
I'm not sure what it was, but for some reason, it was some anniversary of the show or some special occasion. They decided to do it live, and that's why she seized that opportunity to make the announcement that she would be leaving the show after 20 plus years. And this friend of mine had to deal with that as a young producer, and that my goodness.
Yeah, I've had somebody quit on air, but it wasn't. I was just
the gambling place.
Yeah, but I was just like ready with the cut button to VT or something because he just said, "This is my last." He just went, "This is my last thing. Good night." And because I didn't know he was quitting, and I was like, "Oh." I think he told me just before.
But why would you do that on air? That's very. I thought he was going to.
But he wasn't having a rant. But I was thinking, is he going to rant? He didn't. But I just because you always think, don't do that. Because she was, hers was not a rant. It wasn't.
Not
down in flames.
But why would unless there's a problem? Why?
But some people do
on
go.
Air?
Just to be, just to make it categorical.
Just making an announcement, isn't it?
Just make it
categorical. But I think you think you'd say to you then he's going to say it on air.
I think he. No, I think he said, goodbye. This is our last.
If you announced it beforehand, they would want to manage it in their own way, the production company. Whereas if you do it spontaneously, it's out there now. And then suddenly it becomes headline news, front page news.
Like Andrew, would you do a TV producer on a gambling show?
On a gambling show, as in a casino-y type show.
Yeah, that's what I do at the moment, or did do.
I have actually, in a part of my career that I've not spoken about yet. I did work for a channel called Big Game TV.
Oh God!
It was year 2006.
Not shooting lions and things.
Not a big game.
No,
kind of big game.
It was early 2000. Well, it was 2006. I'd just been made redundant from ITV, and I'd gone for this job interview, and they'd offered it to me. It was a good salary. It was actually better than what I was earning at ITV, and there were promises of earning hundreds of thousands of pounds in bonuses as well. And this channel basically was a quiz channel. It was up in the recesses of Sky somewhere, channel 200 and something, I can't remember, or 800 and something, I think it was, even, I can't even remember. But people were watching it, and they were basically paying to call in with their answers to a very simple riddle that would appear on the screen. So it would, be like a word, like fill in the blank. Sports what? Well, everybody would go, I know that, sports day, or whatever, or sports quiz, or whatever. And they call in, but they only had a 1 in 6 or 7 chance of getting through. And then when multiple people were calling at any one time, they have a 1 in 100 chance of getting through or something. So it was a money spinner for the people that were running it, and those profits were going to eventually be passed down to the key workers, of which I was one of them. But it always left a sort of funny taste in my mouth. I just wanted to sort of make, TV programs, although I'd love to make quiz shows. And at the time, a scandal broke. It was Blue Peter were found out to be cheating with the phone-in competitions. And it was a big scandal because...
What was the cheat?
Well, that they pre-selected the winner. So they got people to phone in for a competition.
What's wrong with that? I thought that's what they do.
No.
Give it to him.
Pre-selected, as in they'd made their decision before everybody had called in who the winner would be.
Kids program.
Yes. That's a scandal, you see. You've grown up with Blue Peter. You know it. You trust it. You trust the presenters. And if the BBC could do that, then this channel at number 800 must be doing it too, except we weren't. We were doing it really by the book.
There was one on ITV, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Was it Quiz Call?
Quizmania. There were loads of them.
Yeah, where it was
And-
like, what would you find in a lady's handbag? And the
Yes.
answer was wrench. although that was the top answer. So we also things like, so obviously someone went lipstick and they went, 50 quid, but the 100 grand or whatever, the top prize was something ridiculous. Like I think it was wrench, or it'd be like a haddock. And although feasibly you could fit those things in a lady's handbag, I think the sort of courts, as it were, Ofcom ruled that was not in the ASA, I suppose, ruled that was not necessarily
I don't
in the
think
spirit.
that they ever had any trouble with Ofcom in particular. It was just the trust in the viewers that kind of killed them. And basically, because of this Blue Peter did it sort of immorally, if you like.
Yeah.
It had a knock-on effect to...
Didn't the presenters have to apologise on air for that? And
Yes.
And they're like, bloody hell, we didn't pick him. Get the
kids are
get
going,
the
"What are you
producer out
talking
here.
about?"
He can...
Do you know the only competition I've ever entered in my life was a Blue Peter competition when I was a kid.
You were cheated.
There you
just-
go. So
and
you
now I'm a
trusted.
bit and I swear it was a change in my personality because I assumed if I did something, I'd get something back. I had somebody send in. I said, "What's that dinosaur?" And I knew it was a Tyrannosaurus Rex. That's how far back that scarred me. And I got nothing. And when the person's name popped up, like 4 weeks later, I was like, "Fucking."
And then you wrote to Santa, he didn't
people.
write back, and that was it.
I was so
That was the
pissed
beginning
off,
of
'cause
your
it's 4
villainy.
weeks of waiting a long time. Do you know what the breakdown of what Tyrannosaurus Rex means?
Well, it's Tyrant Lizard King, yeah.
Oh, well done. Yeah, you got it. But yeah, so I knew that.
What do I win?
And I got sod all for it. And now
Sod all
I'm
the
glad they got in trouble for that because I might have been robbed. Because it was pointless. They took that. I should get the money back for that stamp that I didn't pay for.
Right. So no. Anyway.
I feel
So
better
yeah.
now,
So you were
let's
doing. So you had a kind of a brief thing.
Yeah,
There.
it's the only job that I've ever left, actually, because I ended up doing these graveyard shifts of like 12 midnight till 3 in the morning and stuff, because it was on so late. And actually, the best viewing figures came late at night. I think it was drunk people coming home from the pub going, "I'll never go at that," ringing up £1 a time. And, basically, it wasn't fulfilling me creatively, although it was great at the beginning because we'd come up with new ways of using the set and new graphics, and it was new games to play. It was really interesting, but it just didn't float my boat by the end of it. And then eventually the channel ended, and but I've made some lifelong friendships from that, and people ended up doing quite well from it. Some of the presenters, that they went and presented mainstream shows.
Yeah.
How have you worked on any shows overseas? Or has it all been
I have,
based
yeah.
in-
I've done some blooper shows for America, NBC's Most Outrageous Moments, The World's Funniest Weather.
So that time the NBC
The
would
world's
give you the
funniest
bit.
weather.
Yeah, usually people getting blown off bridges and stuff like that.
Or they're doing
Yeah.
a news report and something whacks them in there.
And I did a 6-week stint in China for the X Factor, where I went over when companies overseas buy a program format. So I was talking about format points before.
Yeah.
So there's a Bible how to make a program. So in other words, this is what the set should look like. This is what the music should be. This is how the lighting should be. This is how the presenters should be at various points. There are ways to do it right and ways to do it wrong. So Fremantle hired me for 6 weeks to go to China to basically oversee the Chinese X Factor. And I'd done Surprise Surprise in China before as well, because I'd worked on Surprise Surprise and did that for a week as well in China. Actually, a week was enough in China. I should have known better than to go for 6. Although, that said, it's really interesting culturally to learn how foreigners make TV, because, well, in China in particular, they've got, as we say, all the gear and no idea.
Yeah.
But they're keen to learn, really keen to learn. And I'll tell you a story. So I've previously said about how the sob story should always get through.
Yeah.
This guy came on in China. He was a prison warden, and he had his kid with him.
It's a surprise.
No, this is X Factor.
Oh, X Factor. Okay.
So he came on to sing. He sang a song. Okay. But he had his kid with him in the wings, and then the wife came out with the kid, and basically the song was basically, "He calls me uncle." because he never sees me because
is
he's a
quite
prison
sad,
warden,
yeah.
and he never gets to see the child.
He's too busy executing all the prisoners.
Basically, yeah. And it was this wonderful sob story. The mother was crying, the father was crying, the audience were all applauding, and the judges came down to the voting, and they said, yes, no, yes, and it should be yes for him to get through. But the fourth one said no. And so I halted the whole production, and this is me, the crazy Brit, just coming over here just to kind of like oversee the production. I halted the whole production. I said, look, we want this guy to get through because he is a great story. Yeah, we want him to get through. The whole audience are rooting for him. And now the Chinese are very proud.
Right. Yes, don't want to lose face.
The way to do it would be to take that take, and then all the judges backstage would then have a conflab, and they go, look, I've made a mistake. We need this guy to go through. And they'd film all of it, and it would be part of the program.
Right. Yeah. Oh, so yeah.
But the Chinese, because they're so proud,
won't do it.
They won't do that. So they insisted, after about an hour of halting this program and all the audience waiting around for this conflab to happen, they said, okay, we'll just do a retake. So we got the guy back on the stage, and they did the retake. Yes, no, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So, and in the end, that story ended up being the very first story in the very first series of X Factor China. So it was so important to them in the end. They realised how important it was that it ended up in a really prime position in the show.
Did it ever get out that it was faked? Well,
it wasn't faked. They changed their minds thanks to what I told them to basically convince
They changed their
them
minds
to say.
because you told them to.
Yeah.
It's been kind of 1 week, fascism rules.
And I was right. So, yeah.
How did you get the person to change their mind?
It took a lot of talking. I just had to sort of, but they were lovely. The Chinese judges were, and they were all people like of the era. Like it was probably like the Sonia of the 80s, but Chinese.
Sonia.
They were all like great.
But what about the language, Barry?
I had to have a translator with me the whole time. Every time.
So you try to convince somebody through a translator.
Yes. So everything I said, would literally be a delayed reaction. So you'd say something. It would get translated.
It's hard to
They'd say
emphasize.
something, then it would get back translated back to me. So it was a very long process. Probably why it took an hour and not 10 minutes.
And you were there for 6 weeks.
I was there for 6 weeks.
So when you came back to England, when you started saying stuff, did you sort of look for an interpreter?
I should have done. Yeah, it was great, and they learnt so much. And actually, recently, one guy who was one of the editors, but I do like little sort of master classes with them, show them how to do the editing and everything. One guy who was one of their editors, very young guy, probably in his early 20s, now has his own business with 150 employees and has gone on to be this hotshot in China. I'm not taking any responsibility for it, but I'm just saying, wow, isn't that amazing? You can really make...
What does he do?
He's just got his own production company. He's making entertainment shows. And
where do you move up from? Because you've been doing so many things. Like, do you go, do you know what, I want to stop doing all that now, and I just want to run a
chip shop?
No. A production company of your own and have people do the work, and I'll just point at things.
Well, do you know what? It's easier said than done, that. I mean, yes, maybe one day, but I like being...
You like doing the job you're doing. So,
I like being hands-on. Although I'm sort of given the title of executive producer on these programs, I'm effectively the showrunner. So basically, I make the decisions and choose the music for the theme tune. I hire the talent. I'm doing these shows at the moment called When TV Goes Horribly Wrong on Channel 5. There was one on the other day, When Game Shows Go Horribly Wrong. Yeah. I've done 18 of them. They're 3 hours each, and I'm a wonderful production company called Crackit Productions, and they hire me, but on a contract basis. So in other words, if there's a commission, then I get a job.
Right, okay.
But so far, touch wood, wherever there is any, I've been sort of solidly there for 4 years. Well, almost solidly, because I've gone off to do Michael McIntyre's Big Surprises and various other things, the Royal Wedding. Oh my God, I'm name dropping now.
Why not? So when it's like, you met the Queen, it's like you. You were at the wedding.
I like being employed, and I think that,
it's a hell of a statement.
It's a hell of a statement, but in TV, it's a very precarious business, and you never know when it's all going to end. But for now, I like doing what people want me to do and what I enjoy doing, which is basically making funny shows.
Is there any ideal job for you? Like, you go, I'd love to be part of that, like if somebody was watching.
I think I'm doing my ideal job, really. But what I would like to do is maybe one day do a game show, which I haven't really done other than that
production.
Dreadful experience
As a
in
producer?
2006. Yeah.
What would have been your ideal game show? Blankety blank.
No, The Price is Right. No doubt about
really?
it.
Okay.
Oh, I love that. I love that show.
Is that still on?
It's on in America, isn't it? But
It's on in America.
That's
Yeah.
a very sort of that's a good show. That is like it works, doesn't it? The Price is Right.
It's an enduring format. It's been on since I think it's like 1972 in America, and Bob Barker was like a sort of Dennis Norden of his day. He was like a sort of a hero to everybody, and he presented it way into his 80s as well. And he is still going. Bob Barker.
I like the fact that I've asked you, and you're struggling to find something that you're not doing. Like that's a really good place to be, man. I'm so happy to hear.
Oh,
like,
bless you.
That's
Theo.
really nice because you don't often hear that. You say, "What is it like to do?" You often hear, "I actually want to," and you go, "Oh, well,
yeah, it's quite nice to hear. I'm doing it.
I'm really Cilla Black," and all. You go, "Well, I've done this is it. There's nothing. This is the best. This is the ideal job."
Yeah, we don't have The Prices Right here, is it?
Yeah, you think that'd be?
Have we had it here, or am I misremembering?
We had it with Leslie Crowther in the 80s. Bruce Forsyth in the 90s, Joe Pasquale in the noughties. Recently, Alan Carr on Channel 4 did one. Yeah. So, yeah, and it's probably
What's the big show now? Not X Factor. Like, what's the game show? Big one now? Blankety Blank or something now?
We don't
not really know
anymore, do we?
What's on at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock?
Big Stars, Little Star does quite well for ITV. The Chase is hugely popular. Pointless is hugely popular.
What's the Chase?
Yeah, we have the quiz shows.
The Chase?
We tend to do quiz shows more rather than game shows, don't we? I would say.
Yeah,
we tend to do more.
I've never known the difference, but yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Quiz shows is questions.
Yeah. You can sort of look at a quiz show and go, "Oh, that." I know what you mean.
We're a nation of crossworders,
well, kind of, yeah. But you could I suppose something like The Wall is probably more like a game show, although it's got questions. The fact they've got the balls
that does well
throw
for
the
the
balls,
BBC.
yeah, with Danny Dyer, isn't it? I've only seen bits of it.
I'm to Dale Winton. That rings a bell.
Well, he died.
Shopping. Oh, he's dead.
Yeah, a couple of years back, didn't it?
The shopping fella.
Yeah, the
running around with a shopping basket.
I did a show with Dale Winton. One of his last shows, he
was
voiced
good in camera. I liked him.
When game shows go horribly wrong, which was just on the other night, repeating. I had the best time with him because we both just talked about TV for the first hour of this voiceover that we were doing, and he was just such a lovely, warm guy, and he's one of these people that his voice, when you hear it, it just brings the show to life. And we had some pretty serious stories. Had to get him to sort of not do them so camp. But he was just a really lovely guy. And when the show aired, because they're 3 hours long, they air from 9 o'clock till midnight. On the night that the show aired, he sent me an email, and he'd watched the show going out live as did everybody else, and he sent me an email, and he said how wonderful he thought the show was and how he'd love to work with me again, and it was this lovely email. His email was something like Dusty Dolly Dale or something. It was a hilarious email address, and he was just a really, really, really nice guy. And because I've done all these shows on Channel 5, we always have a different voiceover for each of them. So I've got to work with some really iconic people. I suggest them, and then we go to Channel 5 and we say, how do you feel about Angela Rippon voicing when Eurovision goes horribly wrong or something? And they say yes. But we've had some great people through the doors doing those shows, and most recently 2 shows that are just coming out. I've just done 101 Near Misses with Shane Ritchie voicing it.
Okay,
yeah.
The names of the shows.
I know. And I've just done 101 Puppies, voiced by Ashley Jensen.
101 Puppies?
Yeah.
I'm assuming the near misses is, people almost getting hit by
stuff. The Puppies is basically just puppies doing cute things for an hour. It's a really cute show, actually. It's not been on yet, but it's so cute. Ashley Jensen, she was in, do you like Ricky Gervais shows?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's the love interest of Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
Really warm Scottish
voice.
Yeah, and I've just done a show about truckers with Tim Healy. So I get to work with interesting people, and people always ask me, which I'm sure you will in a second, have you ever had a bad showbiz experience?
Yep, totally.
I went to my head, and I thought, I'm not going to ruin the mood.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned,
I haven't. I really haven't. And I always live by this sort
you
of
must have.
No,
you're forgetting early on.
No. I think the bigger the star, the smaller the ego usually. So it's always usually.
But I think it's more down to your disposition than that.
Maybe sometimes, and I'm good at dealing
riding
with people.
the waves with people. Yeah.
I'm sort of. I wouldn't say I'm a yes man, but I like to at least make people
you can
feel
solve
like they're
problems
getting their own
in
way.
another country through an interpreter. So you're good. Your skills are pretty good. What somebody you didn't get on with? Then just didn't get on with them.
No. Never. But then I love showbiz, and therefore I'm doing showbiz shows, and
you're doing entertainment. Entertainment type people. What about you and your media career?
Have I ever had people that? No, nothing.
No.
It's about nothing. You get moments. People
Low-level starlet. That's.
No, you tend to. It was a bit like we were talking about before. I think before we went live, or maybe it was. That sometimes agents can be difficult.
Oh, okay.
In that case. And you think, but you're so, the client then. So when I've done casting, you're like, oh, the actor's so lovely, and their agent is a servant of the devil.
What about you with agents and people you have to go through? That must be. Is that an ongoing?
Yeah, and because on these talking head shows that I'm doing for Channel 5, I get through 40 talking heads per show, so I've made 18 of them, so I've probably got through about 800 different, and I try and make them all different every show as well. I don't want to have the same people on every show, so I've probably booked through my bookers, they've booked sort of 800 people, and I don't know generally it comes down to money and stuff. I did have an agent. I did a show about animals. It was called When TV Animals Go Horribly Wrong. And the agent wanted to know why I was paying one person more than another person of his, and insisted that we pay them all the same.
And they know that? Do they? How
well,
yeah,
they're the same agency. They would.
Oh, yeah, same agent. Yeah. And one I'd heard of, and the other was quite famous, and that's why I was paying him this amount. And the other one was sort of somebody that was an animal presenter, but it's like I hadn't quite heard of them, so let's give them less. I decide what everybody gets paid on the show, but
really the agent should know that. They should, if they're going to be. I mean, I know they want their 10-20%, but they've got to. I did something recently, and it was the person where we were going. It was just a kind of general kind of thing, and it was just like, give us some suggestions, and this is roughly what the fee's going to be. And someone sent me one, and I was like, really?
It's just too high, was it?
No, it wasn't too. I was just like, really? Do you think that's fair?
Oh, right.
It was, I know that sounds really horrible, but it was just like, really? Could you not sense from what the email was?
What plans have you got then? Are you out of work as of today? Can you look for other work?
So I'm not allowed to take a full-time job until the next
But you're still getting paid to the end of the year?
Yeah, so I get paid to the end of the year.
So you're off.
And my bank account number is this, and my sort code.
So hang on. So that's a good thing then?
Yeah, so I'm doing freelance work and stuff.
Right,
and I've got it's timed in quite nicely because there's some writing stuff that needs to be done because it's all actually being produced, but you're always writing up until the moment they start rolling the camera, and then even on set. So that's quite nice timing actually with that.
So what do you look forward to in the future? I mean, professional wise, you're doing your thing, and whatever comes up, great. But outside of that, is there anything you're going to be moving overseas?
No plans. You trying to get rid of me?
No, I'm trying to think. Have you got? I like to know that people have got stuff to look forward to. Have you got anything in the pipe work?
But I mean, if you're doing your dream job, it must be
that's
hard
the thing,
to. It's hard to.
I think the key is just it is a sort of difficult industry to sort of sustain. Anybody that is a survivor in showbiz has my sort of respect, because it's one of those jobs where it's quite easy just to kind of fall off the radar. And I think, as I keep saying, you're only as good as your last job. So I just want to keep working, keep doing what I love doing, and, keep the shows sort of fresh. I pride myself in not repeating too many clips from show to show. I don't really, I could, when they tell me what shows they want me to make next, I can kind of almost write out the clips on a piece of paper in 5 minutes. But actually, I don't want all those clips. I don't want Grace Jones being slapped on Russell Harty because everyone's seen it before. I don't want,
not knocking them out. I want to do a good job.
I want to do a good job. I always say to my team, I want new old stuff.
Yeah.
In other words, stuff that people have forgotten that would be a treat to see again, or just stuff that's basically, fresh, that feels fresh. So, I do pride. There is a good way to do clip shows, and there's a not good way. I mean, I'm sort of like, I'm not like, the most groundbreaking producer in the world by any stretch of the imagination. But what I like to do is bread and butter type shows really well. That's what
Yeah.
I think. That's all I can hope
But there's
to
something
do.
to be said for that, because there are a lot of clip shows, and you go, God, this is just like you say. It's just the fucking. I have to watch that Grace Jones, or I have to watch Del Boy fall through the bar one more time, or I have to.
Still works though.
You know, I was still funny, but you go, the fun, when
Yeah.
it's, but it's like,
Don't really
it's not
earn your
shocking
money.
moments. It's not shocking because we've seen Grace Jones hit that guy 50,000 times, So it is nice when you get a clip and you go, oh, I haven't seen that. I mean, I was watching. It was on Instagram, but it was just something that official Star Wars put out of Carrie Fisher, because I think it's obviously coming up to the release of the new film, and then beyond that, it's going to be another anniversary, sadly, of her death. And they had clips. There was lots of usual kind of things. So from the films, so some of the characters' best moments, but then also some of her sort of and there was one bit interview where she was on French TV being interviewed in French, responding in French.
Right.
And you went, wow, that's brilliant. I
Yeah.
didn't know Carrie Fisher could speak.
Yeah.
Not like I would speak kind of very broken, pathetic French. She was speaking
French, yeah.
fluent, perfectly pronounced French. And you went, what? And that blew your mind. And that was brilliant, yeah.
So have you got anything lined up now then? Is there anything immediately, or you just...
Yeah, I've just got a load of new commissions for Channel 5. So, yes, as I said, I just got back from holiday. I thought my contract was going to be up, and so I booked my holiday, and then all of a sudden I've got all these new shows to do. So on Monday, I'm literally starting on, I can't even remember what they're all called. I think I've got When Popstars Go Horribly Wrong. When Celebrity Goes Horribly Wrong 2.
Oh. So when
and-
Popstars goes wrong, what would be the...
Can't remember the last one.
But what would be the sort of... Because celebrities go wrong, I'm assuming that's, Mickey Rourke having too many facelifts and all that kind of thing. Or,
Yeah, well, the way we define a horribly wrong
Yeah.
is it has to actually go horribly wrong for them. So we can't point to Mickey Rourke and say, you've gone horribly wrong because you've had too much surgery. Because A, that's mean and unfair,
Yeah.
and B, it hasn't gone horribly wrong for him because he's still
Yeah,
actually
he's still
working
acting,
and
yeah.
doing all right. So there has to be a cause and effect. So
Yeah.
basically, I've made one episode of When Celebrities Go Horribly Wrong
Yeah.
already, and we had on that Brian Harvey, and we
Ah,
had an
okay.
exclusive with Brian Harvey. He hadn't ever really spoken about the whole
driving over his own head.
it was an alleged baked potato incident, and
So strangest story ever.
but also he gave us the X-rays of the accident, and he really messed himself up.
yeah.
And he opened up about the whole talking about taking drugs, and then at the time this poor girl had just died, Leah Betts, from taking an E, and that really was, he basically put his foot in it, was hung up to dry by the media, and now has a life away from the spotlight and can't really trust anybody. And to get him on board was a difficult task, because you reach out to somebody. In his instance, he didn't have an agent, so I had to reach out to him on Twitter. I then was befriending him and saying,
wow,
look,
so no agent. Was
you
that
can
his
trust
choice?
me. Yeah, he's kind of like shied away from the limelight now. He's kind of doing his own thing. And, I was like, I just was like, you can trust me. I'm a nice person. I'm not going to string you up. We want to tell the story from your perspective. And eventually he agreed to do it. So I obviously made sure that I was there on the day to actually be the one that interviewed him. I don't normally go down and do the interviewing, but I wanted just to make him feel comfortable. And again, it's another Dale Winton moment. He messaged me after the show had gone out and literally loved what we'd done, because we took his side. He was young, and he said things about taking drugs, which, okay, is not admirable, but, he made a mistake, and he's a talented artist and should be working. He's a really nice guy, and, it was just about really presenting his side of the story and not stitching him up as some producers might do.
Yeah, I think you would be so apprehensive, especially for him, because he has had all these, that you would go, I think, oh God, they're going to recut it and edit it.
So it doesn't have to be funny.
Some of them aren't. Well, especially with When Celebrity Goes Horribly Wrong, not all of them are funny. I mean, some of them are funny, like Mariah Carey sort of singing out of tune at the New Year's Eve.
Oh
thing
God,
and stuff
yeah,
like that. you know, or not singing at all, forgetting the words.
Yeah, she just went, don't get better than this, and just danced
yeah.
around like an idiot.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Some of them are funny. So actually, these shows, what's great about them, in my opinion, is that there is sort of light and shade. And,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
we tell some quite serious stories, and people, you know, that have, you know, had tragedy or whatever, and we do it and we kind of weave it together like a little sort of mini sort of 5-minute story, in essence. But what the beauty of them is quite often we get the first-hand people to actually
okay, so it's
talk
not just
about,
they would remember, you know, you've not got somebody, whoever, it seems to always be people from I've forgotten the name of the band now, that fake rap band with Maggot and, you know, Guns Don't Kill People rappers do. They always seem to be on these countdown shows talking about other people.
We work quite hard, and I think, you know, let's get relevant people, and it is about that. That's how, you know, when you're a producer, you're answerable to, you know, not only the hierarchy above you, but your viewers. You know, if people tune into something and they wonder why, you know, a C-list celebrity is talking about something that happened before they were born. Well, first of all, you've got to suspend a bit of disbelief, because actually not everybody's going to know about everything on a talking head show. And of course, we send them the clips in advance, and they can then sort of like think about what they're going to say and stuff like that. But, you know, it just needs to be presented in a sort of believable way, really, as I say.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Have you always lived in London?
I was in London all of my life, other than when I was at Manchester at university.
So where were you born?
I was born in London.
Whereabouts?
Queen Mary Hospital in Paddington, which is where all the royals were born. But don't think I'm regal or anything, because I'm not.
You didn't hear carriages going past.
Yeah, no.
So that's nice. I'm happy. I've had a good day today. I've listened to somebody who's had a nice life. They're interested. It's hard listening to you talk about things like when we were saying before the internet. Oh, he just tapped the thing. I've just realised I've gone back to my old ways. You're talking about the internet because you're still young. So it's like when we was going before the internet, it seems like we should.
Yeah, but it's because
the language is old.
It's become so
it's just came
advanced,
from
isn't it? Yeah, you think in the last 10 years we've gone from.
Do you prefer it now or the old ways?
To be honest, it's easy now. You can
because less pressure, I suppose.
You can get clips quicker because you can basically people can send them to you instantly. So if they've got something, let's say for an It'll Be Alright on the Night, we transfer it to you straight away, so you can see it quicker. Yeah. But then you've got more hoops to jump through in order to then license it. Yeah. So, you know, people are less willing to actually let you use the clips and all that stuff. So it's facilitated some things, but made other things more difficult. And of course, the fact that people watch 3-minute compilations of funny moments that are not legally licensed. Right. So, you know, people falling over on, you know, shows like Saturday Night Live or, you know, these big shows, and they just basically rip them from TV or the internet and they put them in a really neat compilation, and they're thundering along at 100 miles an hour. Yeah. And that doesn't help clip shows that can't move at that pace because A, they can't afford that many clips, and B, you know, they're showing all the best stuff that we're never going to be able to license. So, yeah, it's kind of like swings and roundabouts, basically.
So, let's just say you're 21, 22, you've got your media degree. I sort of want to work in TV production. I'm not sure what. Give me some tips. Give me a couple of tips. What should I do? What should I really... Be nice, be likeable.
Well, before any of that, you've got to watch TV and know all about TV.
Know who's what.
Yeah.
Okay, right, yeah.
And these days, you've got no excuse for not knowing.
And watch everything. Don't get pulled in, no?
Not everything, but like I never watch sport, for example, because I'm not interested in sport. So,
you should specialise, actually.
Yeah, specialise is a good thing. But yeah, know about TV. Know who makes what program and what makes it good, and write to or email now the people whose work you admire. I mean, I get lots of people emailing me on LinkedIn and stuff, and I think maybe sometimes that's random because they just look up TV producers or whatever. Because I get lots of actors and they're like, "Can you help me with this?" And I'm like, "No, I don't really work with actors." So, but yeah. You know, you can find out who does what really easily these days, whereas in the old days, you'd have to watch a program and watch to the end and see the name at the end, and that's the person that I need to contact. You can. I believe in killing people with kindness. So, you know, if you email somebody and basically tell them how much you love their show. I mean, I couldn't resist that. If somebody was nice about one of my shows and they emailed me, of course I would give them a chance because, everybody wants to hear that. So it's about getting that first foot in the door and, getting some experience somehow. What's difficult for people is if they don't do it straight away, well, when they're sort of 20-something, then they're not really going to be willing to do all the menial jobs like making tea and doing all the photocopying and stuff, because that's sort of like, a young person's game, if you like. But yeah, there are ways of getting in without any connections. I didn't have any connections. I luckily did a TV production degree, which gave me some experience. And so at least I could show that I had that interest to start with. But, it's...
Do you need a degree, or could you just go to
No, you don't need a degree.
I'll work for free.
No.
Just let me know when
Yeah,
you need me.
yeah, you can do. But what's helpful is to have some demonstrable knowledge or experience, such as, and in this day and age, it's actually cheap to film things. You can do it on an iPhone.
Yeah.
You could just show somebody a little short film that you've done or something that kind of proves that you've got that interest. So,
would you ever move your skill set into a film?
Films, I've got a very short attention span.
Right, okay.
Even though I'm watching.
Your clip shows are 3 hours long.
They are 3 hours. Do you know what though? Now any show that's like an hour seems like a doddle to me. Once you've done 3 hour shows, it's like, because you've got to sustain the interest for 10 parts of a program. Normally a 1 hour show has 4 parts. But to keep that going, it's like it's never ending. Even when I get to part 8, when I'm signing them off, I'm like, oh my god, this is so long. So yes, they're mega.
And you describe yourself as a TV producer?
I do. Yes. Yeah. TV producer is effectively what I do. And that's what I like doing, and it's about...
Did you do any tutoring or anything like that? Do you get called in for any media company university courses? Do you not?
No, not really.
You think you would? You're a good communicator. You think that would be part of your thing, like people will be contacting you?
I'd like to do something like that, and I believe in, I do believe in sort of giving the love back and stuff. So, I've done some charity videos just to sort of, for free, just to kind of... give something back. But I'd like there to be a kind of system of some sort, like a sort of volunteering system where I could do something useful.
One or two people on it, part of the women Women's Intelligence.
Oh yes,
film.
yeah.
And I thought, could you have a man doing that, or are you only allowed to be a woman that teaches on that? You'd be perfect for that.
I'm trying to think of the women film and TV, because obviously the idea is they're mentoring women, but it's not an entry level mentoring though. It's about 6-7 years in, so I guess it would probably be a bit odd.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Don't make me do anything odd. Theo.
Well, just people have put you forward.
I know what you mean, because it uses, but I suppose the idea is if you're trying to make it,
you
and
just
help
want
women
good
in the
people.
film. Yeah, but the point, then it goes, oh God, do we end up with 10 men telling all the women how to do something? And unfortunately, I think you do.
What's interesting about women in TV is actually they're often the bosses in TV.
Yeah.
I've got a woman boss, as she owns the company, and women can really succeed, although there are issues with women in TV, such as there aren't enough female directors and stuff. But
even nowadays, was that just...
Yeah, it's something, I can't speak for all things, but I think in British film last year, I think it was last year or this year, but it was still only something like 12%.
Oh.
You can understand it not being mathematically 50, it can't be, it's got to go, but you go... 12%? That can't be right. You can't.
I think you should definitely be doing something like that, media courses and things like that.
Nice way to give back.
That's
share
good.
the knowledge.
Well, I was actually happy because I'm not being funny when I said this. So I'm fussy about people I have on because they've got to be nice people and experience, and a lot of the times one knocks out the other one. And I said to him, he's got a nice face. Will you come on the podcast?
Good,
but
nice
it wasn't.
Come on the podcast.
But then I was glad to when I started researching specifically. Somebody else had described him as the nicest man in media.
Yeah.
So Did they?
Yeah. So that
was it.
Two
My
things.
mum?
No, it was the black lady you did an interview with.
Patty Boulay.
Patty, yeah.
Oh, bless her.
I was thinking about getting her on the show actually, but I couldn't find enough about her.
She is wonderful.
Yeah,
I
she's
absolutely love her. And
because you're friends, aren't you? Friends.
We're very dear friends. Yeah, I met her through I think it was probably something I was doing at Wedding TV. She did one of my shows, Celebrity Brides Unveiled.
Oh, okay.
And we just really stayed in contact. And she is definitely somebody that likes giving back, and she does all sorts of charity work with helping young people sort of, get their sort of not only their foot on the ladder, because it's more about sort of teaching young people manners and etiquette and all that stuff through her Bipada Academy. Yeah. And I absolutely love her. Oh, that's so nice of Patty. Yeah. Bless her.
And I'm putting my hat onto that. I'm putting the nicest man in media. Andrew was going to go for the first one. Maybe Charles, actually.
What, Charles?
I'm collecting nicest people in media around me. So, but
I'm being demoted down the league. I was like, you were going to be first, but now I was like, that's fine. I'll be second. Oh no, but Charles is above you. Oh, okay.
No, because Charles is just too nice. You've got a bit of an edge to you. Charles is just, but then he has with his Twitter now. He's started getting.
Basically, Charles has rediscovered Twitter, and now he rants at people.
But he does it against a politician, so I don't really class that as a rant. He's just telling the truth. He's just a Socrates of his time.
Is he? Fair enough. Didn't Socrates have to drink poison?
Hemlock, yeah.
So.
Tingly toes.
Yeah.
That's what happens. You get tingly toes first and it goes up the body. So I say, look, I can talk about philosophy, mate. Well, death.
You can talk about poisoning.
Poisoning. But yes, I really appreciate you coming to the show. It's been really nice to see you, and you've not disappointed. From the jumper, I mean, I liked the jumper as soon as I saw it. Did you buy a lot of clothes from America?
Oh, too many. Yeah. I spent a whole day at the outlet center, Dolphin Mall in Miami, and walked. And I looked at my phone, which now has a pedometer on it, and I'd walked 25,000 steps.
Oh, really?
Excellent.
I was there 4.5 hours, I just kind of went crazy.
What about the money? Is it the currency? Is it how's it doing over there? We saving money?
I think things like clothes, designer clothes. This is Hilfiger. This, would be probably a fortune over here.
Oh, that's what the H is.
Yeah,
right. Okay.
It's not my middle name.
Right.
Yeah,
I thought you.
Nickname. Yeah, or the H from showbiz.
Hollywood.
No, it's Hollywood. Yeah. I love Hollywood. No, it's slightly cheaper, but anyway, I don't need encouraging buying clothes.
What's from a professional, a man of experience? Where the podcasting? Are we showbiz?
You're definitely showbiz, and I know you've
not me. I mean,
yeah, and I know you've got your projects on the go as well, Theo. So I'm very excited, and I want to help.
I did ask if you have a look as a little, like, from the outsider's point of view before we go to the money, just to sort of have we done anything wrong here? Because it's the first time I've done it.
I'm always flattered to be asked, and I think it's nice to help people on their way. And everybody that emails me or messages me on LinkedIn, I always try to look at their show reel. It's not because I'm nicer than nice. It's just because it's like, if I'd had somebody to point me in the right direction, that would have been really nice. Yeah. So, I
always say, be nice. Like, do something first. Don't just contact people and say, I want to do, can you do the work for me? Do something where I can go, right, you've done something there. Yeah. I'll look at it for you. Be nice and be respectful. And then most people do. That's when I put the magazine together. What's the secret of all those people, 50 people, the magazine? I go, I was just honest with people, and I said, look, I do this and you do that, and I'm trying to do a good thing. There was nothing else. That's all I had to say. So I had to say, will you please help me?
Yeah.
But, like, 'cause I get people contacting me, having done nothing, and you go, I get that mindset where you go, look, I just want somebody just did this thing for me. You go, mate, you've got to do something yourself first. You can't just go.
Yeah, where I do casting, every once in a while I get not too regularly, because I do like indie stuff, so I'm not making anyone's career. But periodically I get someone going, I'm an estate agent. And again, this is not to piss on their chips, but it's like, I'm an estate agent and I've been working but I always used to enjoy acting, and now I was writing, I decided to change career, so I wonder what advice you can get. And I say, okay, well, have you done any acting classes? No, not at the moment. I'm just looking to get some roles and think. And I'm so then I say something like, okay, so good idea to get a show reel together. I mean, even at the very, you've got to have something to show people. So just do a monologue, record it on your phone. You've got something to send people. Yeah, look at amateur dramatic societies. Look at things like Mandy, where they tend to take on more people who've got maybe less experience, rather than Spotlight, where you also have to have professional credit. So I give them the whole breakdown, step by step. It's not the roadmap to instant style, but it's like, here would be some ideas to do. Silence.
Just nothing.
There's no reply.
Just
there's
no job.
Every once in a while, someone goes, that's great, thanks. Vast majority, silence. Because you didn't go, okay, I'll give you the, I'll call the people and give them the lead and tell them,
So do something, create something.
Just you've got to show someone that
be nice.
Yeah, have something to show. Ideally, have something to show that says this other person took a chance on me. because that's ultimately what it is. As you say, you're only as big as your last job, and you go, well, you haven't worked in 10 years. Why is that? Is that because you, if you had a reason, because you went, I took some time out or whatever, I went and did something. Yeah, I went and did something else. I went traveling for 10 years, and you go, well, how much money do you have? You don't need to work, really. But you know what I mean? If they've got a reason, but if just like, because I'm a big jerk face and I'm lazy, you know?
No, do something, be nice, and people will come out the woodwork to help you. Simon? Thank you very much.
So, you just before we do go, is there anything so you've got the what's your next clip?
My horribly wrongs. I forgot one of them, which I've now just remembered. It's called When TV Guests Go Horribly Wrong. So it's when pop stars go horribly wrong, when celebrity goes horribly wrong too, and when TV guests go horribly wrong.
TV guests.
And you've got 2 more. So those are the ones that are on air now?
No, they're the ones that I'm about to start making on Monday. I've got some that haven't gone out yet. I've got a whole series called Greatest Celebrity Wind-Ups Ever, which goes out on Channel 5 and is narrated by Joe Pasquale, who's a thoroughly lovely guy who I love. I think that's about the only one that's sat on the shelf.
I will end on this. Do you remember that the funniest thing on TV was real, where the minicab driver got onto the BBC by mistake?
Oh, yes, he was here for the...
he came to pick somebody up.
Was he
the African guy?
Driver?
Yes.
And he came in.
Guy Goma, wasn't it? Didn't he have a similar
and he asked
name?
for somebody. They thought that was the guest.
Yeah, it was to do that.
Put him up. He started answering questions.
But I love the fact he has that moment of hesitation where he's thinking, I should say I'm not that person, but then he just goes with it, and he's just a hero of our time.
Him a question, and
wasn't he an electrician? And that because he came for because he was an electrician and he came for a job interview. So he said, "I'm here for the interview," and they got muddled. And then the bastards didn't give him the job. I'd be like, give him a statue. This guy's a hero.
But Krem, we was talking about Krem on the way here when he's talking about bringing
Krem's our producer.
Bringing his cat. He's got a new cat on the train, and he said, "I think I'm starting to turn British." He said, "Because I'm now worrying about other people's opinions on the train." But that guy is British, mate.
Yeah.
The way they look at him, he realises it's not me.
But he just too polite to say, I'm not the person.
So if you want to know what being British is, just Google that. That's being British.
And I'll put that on one of my shows in maybe 10 years when everyone's forgotten it.
Yeah. So we're sponsored by Love Drinks. We've been talking about them before the show. So you said you're going to go for the heart drink. That sort of fits for you, heart. You know, you're going for the heart of the matter.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. I always go for fruity drinks, not because I am fruity.
And it's a good shaped bottle. Do you not think when you hold it, that's a good shape? Like
ergonomically designed.
Yeah, ergonomic, good man.
And unique as well. I've not seen a bottle.
Yes, he said that the way that they're shaped means that there's no machine currently that can put the labels on, which is why they're all bobbly and bubbly, because they have to put them on by hand.
Very
like we had a founder on last week, a really, really nice guy.
Yeah,
he's part of the vanguard of nice and decency and being kind and giving back and things like that. So
as are you.
So that's why you're perfect for the show.
Exactly.
So Simon, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
My new best friend.
I love it.
I've been demoted again.
You've been so good listening to me babble on. So thank you very much indeed for having me.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Cheers, everyone. Goodbye.